A bitter and miserable battle was unfolding in outer space, where Imperial Pass experts were engaged in a desperate struggle against the foreign-side supreme beings. The battlefield was filled with shattered stars, meteorites, and fragments of celestial bodies, while supreme being blood poured through the starry sky. The foreign side possessed two major advantages: their supreme beings were exceptionally powerful, and they had more experts than Imperial Pass, allowing them to surround their opponents and attack like a pack of wolves. An Imperial Pass supreme being was sent flying before being caught by an enemy wielding a precious pestle. The pestle smashed into him, causing his body to crack apart and parts such as his shoulder blade to explode. Before he could recover, another attack came from behind. A dazzling blue war spear pierced through his body while natural law chains bound him and restricted his movement. He could not evade the attacks because several enemies were attacking him simultaneously. A snow-white long blade then descended, cutting off his head and destroying his primordial spirit, resulting in the death of another supreme being. The foreign side coldly declared that Imperial Pass would inevitably be destroyed and that its strongest individuals would first be slaughtered. Meng Tianzheng was also in an extremely dangerous situation. Although his divine arrows had previously displayed astonishing power and continuously killed enemies, an Emperor Clan Supreme being personally attacked him while other experts joined forces to suppress him. The Emperor Clan expert ordered everyone to arrange a great formation and refine Meng Tianzheng to death. Numerous enormous banners appeared around him, including earthen yellow, black, and scarlet banners, each releasing terrifying flames, endless mist, or surging blood aura. As the banners fluttered, the surrounding stars were crushed, while streaks of light shot from their surfaces and transformed into powerful laws and order that continuously suppressed and sealed Meng Tianzheng. Even though Meng Tianzheng was extremely powerful, he was trapped within the formation and temporarily unable to reverse the situation or help Imperial Pass cultivators who were falling around him. The fact that the arrogant and powerful Emperor Clan Supreme Being needed to summon other experts to jointly suppress Meng Tianzheng demonstrated how formidable he was. But his strength meant little if he were killed here. The immediate priority was to eliminate the foreign experts. The situation became even worse when another Nine Heavens Supreme Being was surrounded and attacked. He fought desperately but eventually exploded in the sky after being struck by a wolf-toothed club, turning into a bloody mist with shattered bones scattering in all directions. On Imperial Pass city walls, the cultivators watched the decisive battle through the bone mirror, their eyes filled with despair as they realized their side was clearly losing. If Imperial Pass supreme beings could not stop the foreign side, the pass itself would soon be breached, resulting in rivers of blood and mountains of corpses. Amid this desperate battlefield, Immortal Wong was one of the few who had gained the upper hand. He was suppressing his opponent when two powerful foreign experts attacked him from the front and rear, unleashing terrifying black winds across the sky. Despite his youthful appearance, Immortal Wong was extremely dangerous. He suddenly displayed the chaos calming art, causing a pitch-black sword core formed from his primordial spirit to fly out from between his brows. The sword core was extremely small, no larger than a palm, yet it was incomparably sharp and indestructible. It pierced through the sky with unstoppable force, instantly cutting open the head of the supreme being fighting Immortal Wong and destroying his primordial spirit. The second expert behind him was shocked that one of their two-man assault had already resulted in a death. Before he could react, his body suddenly became unable to move as the black sword core flew toward him and cut him in half, completely destroying his primordial spirit. The scene shocked all the surrounding foreign creatures, who immediately recognized the technique as the legendary chaos calming art. It was one of the three strongest sword arts of the ancient era and an infamous supreme killing technique. During the immortal ancient era, a cultivator had once used this sword art against the foreign side and killed an undying king, shocking the entire era and stopping a fierce invasion. However, that cultivator was severely injured afterward and eventually perished. Because of this history, the chaos calming art carried an enormous reputation and caused the foreign supreme beings to become extremely wary of Immortal Wong. Immortal Wong understood that he had to fight with everything he had. Since the foreign side clearly intended to wipe out all of Imperial Pass supreme beings, eliminate its upper-level experts, and then destroy Imperial Pass itself. Although he appeared to be only 16 or 17 years old, his youth was not the result of deliberately changing his appearance. He had previously undergone a rare rebirth, restoring both his body and mind to their golden age and allowing him to live another half-life. Such a feat was extremely difficult to achieve for cultivators who had lived from the beginning of the Great Era and whose lifespans were already close to exhaustion. Immortal Wong and Meng Tianzheng were regarded by many as equal, both being peerless heroes capable of suppressing their generation. Some believed Immortal Wong possessed greater potential because of his extraordinary rebirth, while others believed Meng Tianzheng had been held back by the injuries he suffered after choosing the body as the seed path. In his youth, Meng Tianzheng had been unstoppable, but unexpected changes had left him half-crippled, damaging his great Tao and limiting his future achievements. Without those injuries, many believed his current strength would have been even more terrifying. Immortal Wong continued fighting fiercely, repeatedly using his black sword core to kill foreign supreme beings even while surrounded. The sword core became stained with blood, and its power caused the heavens to tremble. His repeated slaughter further enraged the foreign side, especially the Emperor clan, because the chaos calming art had once killed kings from their side. The Emperor clan supreme being who had previously killed Tuogu Yulong's ancestor finally stepped forward himself, accompanied by several other supreme beings who intended to kill Immortal Wong. He declared that the chaos calming art would never be allowed to calm the chaos again and that this ominous inheritance had to be eradicated. He then personally attacked Immortal Wong, causing a world-shaking battle to erupt as the Emperor clan's fury and killing intent surged throughout the starry sky. Imperial Pass was in an extremely critical situation. Immortal Wong and Meng Tianzheng were both being targeted and surrounded by numerous experts from the other side, and they were on the verge of being suppressed and killed, because the enemy's main forces had concentrated on them. The pressure on the other supreme beings of the nine heavens temporarily eased, allowing them to escape their immediate life and death predicament. However, this was only temporary, because once Immortal Wong and Meng Tianzheng were killed, the remaining supreme beings would also be wiped out. At this moment, another terrifying Emperor clan supreme being appeared and led the remaining foreign supreme beings toward Imperial Pass forces, including the Emperor clan expert already suppressed by Meng Tianzheng on the Great Tao chessboard. This meant that 4 Emperor clan supreme beings had now participated in the battle. The newly arrived Emperor clan expert looked extremely young, but his eyes showed the endless changes of time, proving that he had lived for an extremely long period. As he walked forward, every step produced terrifying great Tao ripples in the starry sky, spreading outward like waves and shaking everything around him. A female supreme being from the 9 heavens was immediately struck by the ripples and forced backward, while other foreign supreme beings surrounded her and blocked her escape. The Emperor clan expert calmly told her that no one could save her and began performing the terrifying immortal trampling 9 steps, an extraordinary supreme technique capable of shaking heaven and earth. The female supreme being had already been severely wounded during the decisive battle and was close to death, so her blood energy and combat power were far from their peak. Knowing that she might not have another chance, she roared and unleashed all her strength, sending endless multicolored divine light and auspicious radiance across the starry sky. However, she was still unable to withstand the Emperor clan expert. As he counted his 5th, 6th, and subsequent steps, the great Tao ripples became increasingly violent. When he reached the 8th step, heaven and earth collapsed, divine light surged like an endless sea, and the female supreme being's techniques were completely shattered. The Tao ripples continued to strike her body until she coughed up blood repeatedly and became covered in cracks. Her body eventually began exploding apart, leaving her in an extremely miserable state. The Emperor clan expert then drew a scarlet, blood-like demonic blade and delivered the final strike. Although the female supreme being resisted with everything she had, her head was still severed, and her primordial spirit was completely erased. Her death shocked and terrified the remaining supreme beings, while the Emperor clan expert coldly declared that only a few enemies remained and that they would all die. At the same time, Meng Tianzheng was still trapped inside the formation and witnessed the deaths of the 9 heavens supreme beings one after another. His eyes became filled with blood threads as he watched old friends who had fought alongside him for countless years perish. Overcome with grief, he roared like a wounded beast and called for the revival of the blood and battle spirit from the past. He lowered his head and looked at the great bow in his hands, softly asking when it would awaken. He tried repeatedly to activate it, but the blood-red bow showed no reaction. The Emperor clan leader and the other experts continued attacking the formation, attempting to refine and completely kill Meng Tianzheng. He endured their terrifying attacks only because he had cultivated the profound mysteries of the imperishable scripture. Even while being jointly refined by an Emperor clan supreme being and several other supreme beings, his powerful body allowed him to survive. Meng Tianzheng then gently stroked the great bow, showing reluctance and regret. Before making a shocking decision, he began destroying his own supreme artifact. Everyone was stunned because this bow had an extraordinary origin. It had accompanied Meng Tianzheng since his early days and had once shot down countless powerful enemies. After an unexpected incident on his cultivation path had nearly crippled him, the bow had also been severely damaged and disappeared for an entire era. It had only recently reappeared and demonstrated tremendous power by killing supreme beings, making it seemingly his most precious weapon. Yet Meng Tianzheng deliberately broke it, as he poured all his strength into destroying the bow. Drops of blood unexpectedly flowed from inside it and fell onto his body, causing him to release a low roar. Even the cultivators from the other side were shocked and unable to understand why the bow contained blood. Immortal Wong soon realized that Meng Tianzheng's Dao fruit and achievements might have been preserved inside the bow. Within it was actually flesh, blood, and bones, forming another world hidden inside the artifact. A young figure could be vaguely seen inside, and as the bow was broken, that figure was also torn apart, with blood covering his body. The old supreme beings of the nine heavens then understood the truth. The past Meng Tianzheng and his previous cultivation path had been preserved inside the bow. When Meng Tianzheng had once been crippled and believed to be destined to die, he had cut away his ruined body and buried part of his true spirit inside the bow, allowing it to nurture his Dao fruit. Now, instead of waiting for the divine core and Dao fruit to naturally mature, he had chosen to forcibly break the bow and awaken them ahead of time. His true blood continuously entered his body, causing his aura to rise rapidly and powerful fluctuations to spread across the starry sky. The Emperor clan expert immediately realized that Meng Tianzheng might have intended to use this method to pursue immortality and ordered everyone to attack him at once. However, it was already too late. Meng Tianzheng's aura erupted violently, smashing apart the great formation and allowing him to step out while holding the blood-stained broken war bow. With one swing, he directly blasted a supreme being apart, by forcibly awakening his divine core Dao fruit before it had fully matured. Meng Tianzheng had essentially sacrificed his future potential and destroyed the possibility of achieving a better result later. Nevertheless, his present strength increased enormously, and his blood energy surged like that of an unchained war god. Faint immortal energy began to emerge from his body and illuminate the heavens, showing that he had already placed one foot into the immortal Dao domain. The Emperor clan supreme being was deeply shocked upon realizing that Meng Tianzheng was on the verge of achieving immortality. Meng Tianzheng then advanced directly toward him. With every step, the world seemed to rotate. Stars shifted, time changed, and space became discontinuous. His fist finally struck the Emperor clan expert, sending him flying while blood poured from his mouth. Before the enemy could recover, Meng Tianzheng raised the broken bow and smashed it down with overwhelming force. The Emperor clan expert was unable to evade, and his body was directly broken into two pieces as massive amounts of blood sprayed into the starry sky. At the cost of sacrificing his future path, Meng Tianzheng had forcibly awakened his hidden Dao fruit and broken through the peak of the mortal Dao. Successfully stepping into the threshold of the immortal Dao domain, Meng Tianzheng stood tall and slender, his hair flying in the wind and his presence overwhelmingly intimidating. He had already stepped 1 foot into the immortal Dao domain, causing immortal light to erupt from his body and his aura to sweep through the mountains and rivers. After breaking out of the Great Formation, he immediately launched a fierce attack, splitting an Emperor clan supreme being's body into two. The Emperor clan expert's soul trembled in fear as he desperately tried to escape, while the two halves of his body released divine rainbow light and attempted to reunite. However, Meng Tianzheng coldly snorted and used immortal energy to lock down the void. When the two halves rushed forward, they struck an invisible barrier and fell back covered in blood and injuries. Driven into desperation, the Emperor clan expert burned his vitality and unleashed his strongest ancestral technique, while the surrounding supreme beings also moved to assist him. 9 stars were linked together, and one supreme being grabbed 9 suns and used them as formation cores to suppress the area. The other supreme beings joined forces, intending to seal Meng Tianzheng inside the formation because they realized that his current strength was too terrifying to confront individually. Countless enormous stars were then pushed over, while their magical projections towered into the heavens and caused the sun, moon, and stars to rotate and crash down. Formation patterns covered the stars, forming a terrifying heavenly star formation that completely surrounded the battlefield. Yet none of this could restrain Meng Tianzheng. His eyes shone brilliantly, and instead of attacking the trapped Emperor clan expert, he suddenly disappeared from his original position. In an instant, he appeared before the Supreme Being who had gathered the 9 suns and struck him with a palm. The Supreme Being's entire body exploded in the void, turning into a brilliant mass of blood. Meng Tianzheng moved so quickly that the flow of time and space itself seemed to change. And his concentrated power allowed a single palm to kill a Supreme Being. This immediately filled the others with fear. Meng Tianzheng then transformed into a streak of lightning and charged toward the Supreme Being who showed him the greatest hostility. That expert held a terrifying bone sword, and its sword radiance stretched for hundreds of thousands of li, splitting apart the cosmos. When Meng Tianzheng approached, the Supreme Being immediately swung the bone sword, releasing a devastating sword light across the starry sky. Meng Tianzheng responded by sweeping his great bow across it, shattering the bone sword into countless pieces of burning light. The Supreme Being was shocked and suffered intense pain in his arm. At the same time, primordial symbols appeared around him and began refining his body. He desperately released his ancestral techniques, but Meng Tianzheng suppressed all of their power, causing the techniques to flow back into his own body. With a terrifying explosion, the Supreme Being's body shattered, and blood and radiant energy erupted throughout the void. A large hand then slowly extended forward, revealing that Meng Tianzheng himself had caused the devastating attack. 2 Supreme Beings had now been killed in succession, and the remaining experts were deeply frightened. The Emperor clan expert, meanwhile, became desperate and burned with raging flames. He summoned a pitch-black long spear carrying powerful Dao laws and finally pierced through the restrictions, allowing himself to escape. However, waiting for him was Meng Tianzheng, who had just finished killing the other 2 Supreme Beings. The Emperor clan expert felt humiliated and immediately ordered the remaining Supreme Beings to attack Meng Tianzheng together. At the beginning of the battle, he had agreed to fight the 9 Heavens Supreme Beings fairly because he was confident that the other side would win and wanted to humiliate Imperial Pass. Now, however, he had been forced to rely on a formation and other Supreme Beings because he no longer dared to fight Meng Tianzheng alone. Meng Tianzheng then raised his hand, and a light golden palm filled with auspicious radiance descended with overwhelming force. Countless surrounding stars shattered under its pressure, turning into blazing fragments in outer space. The Emperor clan expert desperately used his strongest ancestral technique to resist, but Meng Tianzheng's palm smashed through his defenses and scattered the technique completely. Carrying faint immortal light, the palm seized him directly. The Emperor clan Supreme Being struggled desperately because he knew that he was finished. Meng Tianzheng's cultivation was simply too high, with 1 foot already in the immortal Dao. He was virtually unmatched within the mortal cultivation realm and was already beginning to possess true immortal level power. No matter how powerful the Emperor clan was, they could not withstand him. Meng Tianzheng then acted with extreme decisiveness, lifting the Emperor clan expert up before using his other hand to twist his neck. He followed by piercing through the space between the expert's brows with 1 finger, causing blood to flow and killing him outright. Everyone present was stunned that an Emperor clan Supreme Being could be killed in such a humiliating and effortless manner. Meng Tianzheng then continued attacking the surrounding enemies. Divine light surged into the heavens as terrifying great Dao energy spread across the battlefield. Several enemies were unable to evade his attacks, were shaken until they coughed blood, and were then pursued and killed, their blood staining the starry sky. Meng Tianzheng noticed another Emperor clan Supreme Being fighting in the distance and immediately crossed the starry sky to attack him. He shouted for the enemy to surrender his life and smashed out with a powerful fist, enveloping the opponent's body in divine light and sending him flying while blood poured from his mouth. The enemy's body cracked apart, and Meng Tianzheng followed with another finger strike containing the power of the imperishable scripture. A streak of light pierced through the opponent, breaking his body apart and turning him into bloody mist. Seeing this, the remaining enemies shouted for everyone to attack Meng Tianzheng together. Meng Tianzheng raised his broken great bow and gently touched it, showing a moment of regret and pain over its damaged state. He then raised his head, temporarily piecing the longbow together with his power, pulling it with all his strength. He used the laws of nature as arrows and fired toward the incoming supreme beings. The divine arrows tore through the heavens and the universe. One arrow pierced directly through a supreme being, causing him to bleed heavily before the arrow exploded and destroyed both his body and soul. Meng Tianzheng continued drawing the bow and firing arrows formed from great Tao laws one after another, assisting the supreme beings from Imperial Pass while slaughtering their enemies. Blood splashed throughout the battlefield as several supreme beings were struck, with 3 or 4 of them having their bodies shattered and exploding into bloody mist. The surviving enemies were completely shaken, realizing that Meng Tianzheng was only one step away from the immortal Tao and possessed such overwhelming strength that they no longer knew how they could possibly confront him. Divine arrows tore through the sky as supreme beings from the other side were continuously killed, causing blood to rain everywhere. Supreme beings stood at the peak of the mortal Tao and possessed extremely high statuses even on the other side. All undying beings originated from their level, and those who reached this realm were the strongest figures of their respective eras. Amid the battle, a snow-white long blade carrying dazzling symbols hacked toward Meng Tianzheng. He calmly flicked his finger and knocked the giant blade aside, but the blade energy still surged like an endless sea. Scattering star remains throughout the sky. The attack came from an Emperor Clan supreme being, who mocked Meng Tianzheng for entrusting his Tao fruit to the great bow and then destroying it, causing it to emerge prematurely and severing his path to immortality. The Emperor Clan expert deliberately exposed Meng Tianzheng's greatest regret, since he had originally been close to entering the immortal Tao domain. But the events of this battle had forced him to release his Tao fruit early and end his long path toward immortality. Meng Tianzheng did not respond. He simply raised his broken great bow and advanced, determined to kill this Emperor Clan expert because this person had previously taken 9 steps and killed a female supreme being, even beheading her with his long blade. The Emperor Clan supreme being immediately unleashed the immortal trampling 9 steps. Each step was more terrifying than the previous one, while the Emperor Clan's blood energy boiled to its limit and undying light surged from his body. As the 9 steps were unleashed, the surrounding starry sky cracked and the heavens seemed to collapse. Knowing that the first 7 steps were ineffective against Meng Tianzheng, the Emperor Clan expert took 8 steps in one breath, then called upon the other supreme beings for assistance. They poured their tremendous magic force into his body, greatly amplifying the power of his final attack. He then unleashed the 9th step, combining the power of all 9 steps into one ultimate strike. 9 waves of blazing energy surged from his feet, gathered into his body and finally concentrated in his right arm and the dazzling white long blade. The blade swept forward, cutting through heaven and earth and unleashing the fatal attack of the immortal trampling 9 steps. The resulting power was so terrifying that countless stars exploded into cosmic dust. Yet Meng Tianzheng remained completely unmoved. He finally raised his broken great bow and directly confronted the Emperor Clan's ultimate attack while simultaneously resisting the combined power of the surrounding supreme beings. The collision produced dazzling sparks and boundless divine force, but Meng Tianzheng's bow forcibly crushed down on the long blade. With a cracking sound, the blade fractured and exploded into brilliant flowing light. The Emperor Clan expert coughed up large amounts of blood, while his arm was crushed by the recoil of his own attack. At that moment, another Emperor Clan supreme being who had been fighting Immortal Wong abandoned his opponent and rushed over to help. The other supreme beings also stopped their battles and gathered around Meng Tianzheng. The 2 Emperor Clan experts feared that Meng Tianzheng would recover and make a comeback, so they decided that he had to be killed regardless of the cost. Meng Tianzheng, however, calmly declared that it was time for the battle to end. He showed neither despair nor grief over his lost path to immortality. Instead, his eyes shone brilliantly as he advanced with the broken bow, focusing entirely on killing the 2 Emperor Clan supreme beings. Even though the surrounding supreme beings attacked him together, Meng Tianzheng primarily targeted the 2 Emperor Clan experts, constantly evading attacks and launching fierce counterattacks. Immortal Wong, the Immortal Academy Elder, and other experts from the 9 heavens also rushed over and joined the battle, reducing the pressure on him. Immortal Wong then revealed that Meng Tianzheng did not have much time left. Shocking the Sacred Academy Elder and the surviving Supreme Beings, Meng Tianzheng merely chuckled and sighed before erupting with even greater power. Wearing golden armor and possessing a tall, imposing figure, he looked like an unrivaled war god. Immortal light swirled around him as he charged through the battlefield, killing 2 supreme beings one after another. He then reached the Emperor clan expert whose long blade had been destroyed and smashed him with the great bow, causing him to cough up blood. Realizing that the situation was hopeless, that Emperor clan expert decisively sacrificed himself, grabbing Meng Tianzheng's arm and covering his body with countless great Dao symbols in an attempt to restrain him while the others attacked. However, they had severely underestimated Meng Tianzheng's strength. With overwhelming force, he crushed the Emperor clan expert's arm, lifted him up, and tore his body in half. Covered in blood, Meng Tianzheng continued forward without stopping, avoiding the attacks coming from every direction and rushing toward the second Emperor clan supreme being. He smashed that expert's body apart with the great bow and then pierced his frontal bone with a finger, completely destroying both his body and spirit. After the 2 Emperor clan supreme beings were killed, the foreign supreme beings immediately retreated. They were not merely frightened, but recognized that continuing the battle would only result in meaningless deaths. The other side had suffered a crushing defeat, as no one remained capable of suppressing Meng Tianzheng. Before Imperial Pass, smoke and dust filled the great desert as the surviving foreign figures descended and then rushed toward Heaven Abyss, attempting to escape back to the other side. Meng Tianzheng did not pursue them. He simply stood quietly in the great desert before Heaven Abyss. Watching them retreat, Meng Tianzheng stood alone before Heaven Abyss on the great desert as supreme being blood rained from the sky. The area high above the ground burned with brilliant light, filled with blood radiance and the abnormal phenomena of heaven's tears. His battle had shocked the heavens and earth, as he had slaughtered the other side's supreme beings, including members of the Emperor clan, until they were terrified and fled. Despite his glorious victory, Meng Tianzheng was nearing death. Immortal Wong had already explained that when Meng Tianzheng snapped his great bow, he had forced his divine core to manifest ahead of time. This had severed his path toward longevity and ignited all of his remaining lifespan. Knowing that he had little time left, he had fought with overwhelming ferocity and killed his enemies without restraint. There was no longer a sun because it had been destroyed in the battle, but the sky remained illuminated by a gloomy, blood-colored multicolored haze. Meng Tianzheng's impending death became a great regret for Imperial Pass and the 9 heavens 10 earths. Although his achievements were unparalleled, his body and Dao were about to be extinguished. Meng Tianzheng's greatest concern was still Imperial Pass. He ordered everyone to rebuild the city and repair its broken walls so that it could withstand another invasion from the other side. The other supreme beings immediately began working, collecting stellar remains and using them to repair the city. The Immortal Academy Elder, Sacred Academy Elder, Immortal Wong, and others also took action, while some examined the immortal ancient formation and sought to restore it. Inside Imperial Pass, everyone was devastated when they learned of Meng Tianzheng's condition. They had just celebrated their victory, yet the price was extraordinarily tragic. Most of Imperial Pass old supreme beings had been killed, while more than half of the 9 heavens supreme beings were also dead or injured. The accumulation of an entire great era had been almost completely exhausted in a single battle. Shi Hao was especially grief-stricken. Since entering the 9 heavens, Meng Tianzheng had protected him, shielding him from the Wong family and Jin family, bringing him into secret lands, guiding him on the path of using the body as the seed, and passing down everything he knew without reservation. Meng Tianzheng had also saved Shi Hao's life several times. Without him, Shi Hao would have had great difficulty reaching his current realm so quickly. Shi Hao begged Meng Tianzheng not to die and tried to save him with Dao comprehension tea leaves, divine herbs, and an immortal medicine leaf he had obtained previously. However, Meng Tianzheng calmly told him to cultivate properly, saying that Shi Hao would surpass him and that his own path would be broader and longer. At the same time, Meng Tianzheng continued standing before Heaven Abyss, intimidating the supreme beings of the other side. None of them dared cross over, and they all retreated. Behind him, Imperial Pass was being rebuilt. But everyone mourned the enormous price of the battle and especially Meng Tianzheng's fate. With his talent and potential, he should have been able to achieve immortality. Yet he was now destined to die on the desolate border after achieving his greatest glory. Suddenly, a streak of chaotic light transformed into an undying divine spear and shot toward the back of Meng Tianzheng's head. The attack came from a supreme being who had hidden in the void after retreating, intending to kill Meng Tianzheng when he became completely exhausted. However, the spear stopped only half a foot from Meng Tianzheng's head before breaking apart and exploding into divine flames. Meng Tianzheng revealed that he had known about the enemy's presence all along. He said the supreme being should have waited longer until he had become weaker. The enemy explained that he could not wait until Imperial Pass was rebuilt, because then the opportunity would be meaningless. Meng Tianzheng then attacked with the imperishable scripture. His palm covered the heavens, crushing all of the enemy's defensive techniques and Tao symbols. He grabbed the foreign supreme being and crushed him into a bloody mist, completely destroying both his body and soul. The resulting abnormal phenomena filled the sky before Meng Tianzheng casually dispersed them. He then turned his attention to the Emperor clan cultivator he had previously suppressed. This individual had broken free with the help of the supreme being Meng Tianzheng had just killed. Meng Tianzheng stated that he had little time remaining and wanted to eliminate this enemy before his death so that he would not leave behind a future threat to Imperial Pass. The Emperor clan supreme being broke free from his natural law restraints and burned all of his vitality, launching his strongest attack in an attempt to kill Meng Tianzheng, escape through Heaven Abyss, and find a path of survival. Meng Tianzheng responded by making the motion of drawing his broken bow. Although there was no bow in his hands, a divine arrow appeared and shot forward like an immortal sword. The arrow split the Emperor clan supreme being in half. His body, primordial spirit, and Tao flames all exploded, with Emperor clan blood staining the sky. Meng Tianzheng then gathered the enemy's blood and bones with one hand and threw the remains into Heaven Abyss, where they burned. Afterward, everything before Imperial Pass became silent. Meng Tianzheng quietly stood on the great desert, looking toward Heaven Abyss and then back at Imperial Pass. His battle armor rang in the evening wind, and his battle intent remained powerful. But his life was approaching its end. Through this battle, Meng Tianzheng had single-handedly intimidated all of the other side's supreme beings and secured peace by slaughtering their strongest experts. No one dared take another step across Heaven Abyss. Yet after reaching such a glorious peak, he was about to enter eternal darkness. Meng Tianzheng continued standing at the forefront of desolate border like an unmovable war god statue, while cries of grief came from behind him. The people of Imperial Pass regarded him as a god of war and could only mourn as this heroic figure approached the end of his life. Meng Tianzheng was on the verge of death after the battle at Imperial Pass. His injuries were too severe to preserve his life, and even the divine herbs and immortal medicine leaf brought by Shi-Hao could not save him. The golden armor covering his body was drenched in both enemy blood and his own, marking the approaching end of this heroic life. Meng Tianzheng said that his only regret was failing to become an immortal. He had originally created a different path toward immortality and had nearly succeeded. But for the sake of the final battle and protecting Imperial Pass, he had sacrificed his own path and glory. His life force was now rapidly weakening, and his aura was gradually becoming restrained. Shi-Hao expressed his deep respect, saying that Meng Tianzheng was greater than immortals in his heart. The elders and supreme beings of Imperial Pass came to see him off. Knowing that nothing could reverse his fate, Meng Tianzheng refused a tomb and monument, choosing instead to remain buried in desolate border, his final battlefield, so that he could continue watching over it. He then forced everyone back and sent Shi-Hao into Imperial Pass before suddenly releasing all of his remaining power. His body erupted with immortal light. His aura surged, and immortal mist surrounded him like a true immortal descending into the world. Everyone realized that although Meng Tianzheng was dying, he still intended to make one final attempt to enter the immortal Tao domain. He burned his great Tao and vital energy, trying to break through the restrictions of this world. Even if he succeeded, he would have exhausted everything and could not survive. But he would at least achieve a moment of ultimate glory and prove that he had broken through the era's shackles. Immortal light illuminated the entire desolate border as Meng Tianzheng displayed overwhelming power. He even grabbed stars from outer space and refined them to repair Imperial Pass. causing supreme beings to wonder whether he had truly transcended the supreme being realm and fully entered the immortal Tao domain. However, at that moment, heaven abyss suddenly shook violently. Natural laws and divine chains of order surged downward, while powerful weapons from the other side, including Anlin's spear and Without Death's great halberd, appeared and attempted to force an undying existence through heaven abyss. Some of their weapons cracked under the strain, forcing the other side to retreat before their precious divine weapons were completely destroyed. Everyone in Imperial Pass initially believed the crisis had passed, but an undying being nevertheless successfully crossed heaven abyss. His body was horribly wounded and deformed from enduring the overwhelming power. Yet he quickly straightened himself and released an immense undying aura that shook desolate border. The arrival of this undying existence plunged Imperial Pass into despair, as everyone had expected several hundred years of peace after the Great Battle. Although Heaven Abyss was once again sealed by powerful natural laws and the other side could no longer send reinforcements through, the undying being had already arrived and no one knew who could stop him. Seeing Meng Tianzheng preparing to enter the immortal Tao domain, the foreign undying being decided to kill him first. Instead of becoming discouraged, Meng Tianzheng laughed and welcomed the challenge, considering it a chance to eliminate his regret over failing to achieve immortality. The undying being claimed that a single finger was enough to kill him and attacked with an enormous finger. Meng Tianzheng then removed his broken bow, causing a mysterious body filled with sinister black energy to emerge from within. At the same time, Meng Tianzheng himself burned with brilliant immortal light. The two bodies attacked together, displaying the imperishable scripture and yin-yang divine brilliance, and successfully blasted the undying being's finger aside, even causing blood to fall from his fingertip. Meng Tianzheng declared that the undying being was not strong enough to kill him with one finger. The two forms of Meng Tianzheng stood together, one radiant and heroic with black hair, the other sinister and demonic with white hair, both possessing immense immortal Tao power and wearing golden armor. Facing the undying existence, Meng Tianzheng declared that he would advance through slaughter and a bloodbath, using this decisive battle on the path of immortality to compensate for the greatest regret of his life.